The Complete Fighter Podcast.
Welcome to the Complete Fighter Podcast, guys. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-presenter, MMA aficionado, boxing casual fan, Sam Natton. Sam, how are you?
Not too bad yourself. Bit bored, but sure, what can you do?
Good. How are you keeping yourself occupied? What are you watching on Netflix?
I've watched everything, I think, on Netflix at this stage. As I said last week, I watched Fight World with Frank Grillo for about the 10th time. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's very good. Give it a watch.
What was it called again?
Fight World. So
I saw the episode about Muay Thai. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And then the one where he goes to Myanmar as well is very good for the let weight. But yeah, apart from that, not doing much else. Promised myself I'd do a bit of exercise, but just going through all the biscuits and the press. That's it.
The most amount of exercise I've done is going to Centra. I'll tell you, before we go into MMA and boxing, guys. This will be a short episode. I'll tell you about what happened to me in Centra earlier. Do you know that water for the first time? The Fiji water?
No.
No, hold on now. I forgot what the name of it was. I only had it once. It was really nice. But you know the way it's probably the most marketed water in the world right now? It is in Europe, it is the case that when I got it for the first time, I had such high expectations. I drank it and I was like, this is actually really nice. But I don't know if it was the placebo effect. Do you know what I mean? I was just drinking it, expecting it to be good. And because I had the high expectations were met because, do you know what I mean? But then
pure
I forgot
marketing.
the name.
It's pure marketing. Like, you've been sold wolf tickets, as Nick Diaz used to say. Eating them right up. As Nick Diaz used to say, you're being sold wolf tickets. Like, you're eating them right up. Like,
yeah, no, mate, but you see, that's it, buddy. Because it could have been the placebo effect. I had such high expectations of it because everyone was drinking it. But I forgot the name of it, and it is a bit of a hipster water. So I forgot the name of it. So I went into the guy in Centra and I said, "Have you got that water? What was the name of it again?" Like I said, what was the name of that water again? He goes, I don't know. And then he was like, and then I was like, you know the water that all the hippies are drinking. Then I was like, the one with the weird bottle. And he was like, he just smirked and he was like, "Mate, I have no idea what you're talking about." And then a lady who was working on the kind of floor staff, she came up to me and she was like, she's a bit of a double accent like you, and she's like, "Oh, Jays, I know what he's talking about." And she brought me over to the thing, and then I just smiled and I said, "Oh, that's it, yeah, the hippie water." And she just turns to me. I'm wearing my Ben Sherman shirt, and she just goes to me. She goes, "I'll tell you what, I'm not hippie, but you shouldn't be giving out. You look like more of a hippie than I do." Then that was just like a mic drop moment for her. Just like, boom. I was lost for words. And then I paid for it, literally just with my head down, ashamed of myself.
I know you're drinking Smart Water, the second most marketed water on the market.
It was what I was watching on Netflix the past few days. Like, everybody was Tiger King, and I do have to say that if this episode doesn't go well, or if UFC 249 doesn't go ahead, we're less than 2 weeks away. If UFC 249 doesn't go ahead, Sam, there's only one person to blame. That fucking bitch, Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin. She sent Habib back to Russia. He didn't want to go, and she sent him back. But
do you know what I was thinking is, you know, the legendary boxer, obviously, Mike Tyson, he used to own tigers, and I was thinking, you know, if he got his arm bitten off by one of his tigers once, would your man Joey just come in and just be like, "Y'all want a discount?" Madman. Anyways, let's get straight into it. So, guys, as I said, this will be a short enough episode. We'll kind of be going, you know, just MMA now. Second half of the episode, boxing. I'll be putting timestamps because this will be on YouTube about what we're discussing where. Sam, you want to start off with MMA? What do you want to start off with?
Yeah, so I suppose at this stage, UFC 249, the best analogy I can come up with for this is, do you know when you're in a nightclub or something and you've had a few drinks and you bump into somebody that you used to go to school with, and you're not that big a fan of them, and you know they're not that big a fan of you, and they go, "Oh, mate, great to see you," and all this. Oh, yeah, we'll meet up for a pint soon, but you know it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. So that's my analogy for UFC 249 now. It's like that guy you see from school that you don't really like, but you pretend you like him when you meet him. And then he says, "Oh yeah, we'll go for a pint soon. Yeah, 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 yeah." But you both know it's never going to happen. I don't see it happening at this stage. You obviously you sent them to me yesterday. Ali Abdelaziz's tweet. The picture obviously had a cropped out picture of Gaethje saying that
It was just
UFC.
his torso. It was just his
Yeah,
torso.
he's saying that UFC 249 is going to be bananas and all. It's at this stage, I don't believe it's going to happen at this stage. I mean, Habib. The whole issue with Habib is there's so many conflicting stories, but the main story seems to be that him and his team flew to the United Arab Emirates to do Dubai. They got there, were refused entry, and then flew home. And then basically Habib said he's not going to move from the house. So, I mean, I can kind of see where he's coming from. Like, he shouldn't really be forced into fighting, but and another thing is probably he didn't consider is probably he probably signed a contract to fight Ferguson ages ago, and that was before obviously this whole thing happened. For obviously they signed the contract to fight in Brooklyn, but this thing, as I said last week when we had the discussion, it probably would have turned that fight into the biggest pay per view of all time because there's no other sport on. So
Yeah.
he's probably right to call it off, because if he couldn't renegotiate his contract and get a bigger fee or get a bigger slice of the pie, then what's the point in taking that risk and going over to United Arab Emirates and fighting or whatever?
Do you know, Sam, there are a few cynics who have said that the reason he went back to Russia, and like the reason he went back to Russia was very probably, obviously, because they're considering they were going to close their borders, and also he wanted to be with his family, fair enough. But do you think any of that, Sam, had to do with the fact that, maybe he wasn't going to make weight because he always struggled with it?
Yeah, look, it's hard to know. It's we're never gonna know what sort how his weight was, and then obviously you got to take into account as well that you couldn't have a proper training camp for it either, because obviously they could only have 2 or 3 training partners in the gym in San Jose anyway. So like if you watch any of Habib's training sessions on YouTube or anything, it's literally just like 100 guys involved in the training session. Like, but the fact that they could only have 2 or 3 people, and I think Daniel Cormier was one, and then Islam Makhachev, and then somebody else were allowed in, and that was it. They were the only people that were allowed into the gym. But maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe mentally going in, he was thinking, maybe I'm not fully prepared. Who knows? We're never going to know at this stage. But
Sam, can I actually ask you? Do you know when you're talking about when he was training in AKA?
Yeah.
Then he went over to Abu Dhabi. Why did he fly over to Abu Dhabi if there wasn't confirmation from Dana White? It'll definitely be there.
Well, it must have been almost arranged at that stage that it was going to be there. And then I would say, remember we discussed it before on the podcast, we said it's probably going to be a country like United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia, or maybe, I don't know, Qatar, somewhere like that. They're all relatively close to each other, I suppose. So he probably would have been able to travel to Saudi Arabia, or would have been able to travel to Qatar or one of those places if it was on there. They're probably the only places that could afford to put it on without a crowd as well. So,
Can I just ask you something quickly before we discuss if Gaethje's going to come into it or Poirier might fight Tony Ferguson as a replacement for Khabib? Before we discuss that briefly, Dana White has tried in the past to hold things very close to his chest. So do you remember when Brock Lesnar came back? Do you remember that? And was that on UFC 200 or something? Was it? He made a surprise comeback.
I'm trying to think now.
Against Mark Hunt.
Against Mark Hunt, what year was that?
I think that was UFC 200.
It was UFC 200, yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
But so Conor obviously didn't fight Conor Diaz, which is the main event, and Brock Lesnar Mark Hunt happened as the main event. the thing is, Dana kept the whole Brock Lesnar comeback as the main event so close to his chest that he said literally the only people in UFC who knew about Brock Lesnar's organized comeback were him, Sean Shelby, and Hunter. He said a lot of the UFC staff didn't actually know. And he said he wants to keep it as a surprise for the fans. Then Ariel Helwani found out. That caused, he released it as the story. Then that caused serious issues apparently between UFC staff, a lot of people blaming each other. And then Ariel Helwani, what was it, for only one day, got his credentials revoked, or his press credentials. But the thing is that just like Dana White was trying to keep it close to his chest about Brock Lesnar's comeback, do you think he's doing that with the venue now? Do you think he actually has a venue, but he's just lying?
I watched an interview with I think it's Robbie from Barstool Sports. I think he did an interview with him the other day. It's about a 25-minute interview, and Dana White rarely gives long interviews anyway. He usually, if he's on the telly or anything, he'd be on for like 5 minutes. But I think it's like a 25-minute, half an hour video, and basically he said, "Fuck them, I'm not telling any of them," because obviously he doesn't like the media too much. So he said with the way they've wrote stories about him and saying that it was disgraceful and stuff for like still going ahead with the event and stuff. He said he's not telling anybody until the week of the fight now. So, yeah,
That's so ridiculous, man.
I
That's so
know
like what?
it's crazy stuff, but that's just he's just stubborn that way, I suppose. But
Do you know the thing about White is that, like, fair enough, he's very stubborn, but he's consistently stubborn, and I
yeah,
always have respect for anyone who's consistent. That's
yeah,
why I have no self-respect, because I'm not consistent. But the thing is that what you know. But what I'm saying, man, is like, how are you supposed to have, like, obviously, how are you supposed to have the press conference 4 days before, and then the weigh-in the day before? That's so rushed, man. It's rushed as it is. But if there's a type of thing now, oh, it's going to be in Malibu, Florida, and if we're told that the week of the fight, and then the press conference is say on the Wednesday, and then let's say and then the weigh-in is on the Friday, fight on the Saturday. That's three parts of the main. That's three parts of UFC 249 in the space of 4 days.
yeah. Like even if you disagree with White, as you said, you have to admire that he sticks to being stubborn. But he said that the media, as far as he's concerned, if they want to show up and cover the event, they can. If they don't want to come, they don't have to come. He said he didn't care. I'd imagine if anybody who is fighting on the card knows where it is and that they've probably been definitely given extra incentives for keeping it quiet. It's probably in their contract that they're not allowed to say where it is or who they're fighting or whatever. But yeah, like I can't imagine. I still don't see it going ahead. I can't imagine there. I've seen a few people saying they're willing to fight, but like, really, would you take that risk? I don't know. I don't see.
Do you think Dane is going to blame all of this on Khabib?
I think he'll hold it against him anyway. I'm sure. I'd say like Habib has said that he didn't want to fight McGregor again before. I would say that riled up White or rubbed up Dana White the wrong way as well. Because I mean, as far as Dana White's concerned, that's the biggest money making fight ever. It's probably that rematch. Like even though the first
Do you
one
think
was
so?
so dominant, it's just because there's so much bad blood behind it. Like, and it seems like they genuinely hate each other. Like, whereas if not put on, it's not like people putting it on and then they shake hands at the end of that. There was none of that. There was full blown riot after they fought the first time. But I think he probably holds that against him. I would say because
But you see, so you're the MMA aficionado. I hate giving you credit, but I don't know as much as you do. So I have to ask you, would you like it to be scrapped?
this event, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Why?
I want to see Habib Ferguson. I want to see it in front of a crowd. I don't want to behind closed doors without full training camps. I want the two of them in the best shape they could possibly be, had the best training camp they could possibly do, best weight cut they could possibly do going into it, without all the unnecessary travel, jumping around from place to place. And I want the best fight imaginable that we can get in front of a crowd. That's what you want. I still think there's time to do it either at the end of this year or next year. Gaethje jumping in to fight Ferguson. If Gaethje beats Ferguson, then it just leaves the whole thing up in the air. Then, really, doesn't it? Like,
Do you know what that Khabib said? Was it on Russia Today or was it to Ariel Hawani? He just said, he said, Dana White, he said, send me location and I'll be there. And he's in Russia right now. So he's sending a lot of mixed messages. Do you think there's any way that Khabib will fight?
maybe if they,
Because he can get a private jet out of Russia.
yeah, that's true. Like, private jets, air travel hasn't been restricted from Russia to any international destination. So like you could literally fly anywhere if the UFC sent him a jet. Like, I mean, but I think it could be him trying to renegotiate his contract, as I said before. Like, if you look at the event now and say Habib versus Ferguson goes ahead, even though there's so many critics of it, everybody's gonna watch it. Like, so the amount of money they're gonna make is gonna be astronomical. So I'm sure he wants to make sure he gets a bigger cut now if he does take that risk and travels to fight. Like, but who knows?
Do you know?
I don't think there would be. I don't think. I don't know. I don't know if Dana White would give in to any sort of demands. He's not one for giving in to fighters' demands anyway. So,
did you see John Kavanagh's tweet on April Fool's Day? John Kavanagh's a funny man on Twitter, but John Kavanagh, he had one where it was him and his girlfriend with a suitcase, and then it was April Fool's Day, he tweeted, and he just said, packing very quickly to get to the airport, #249. And a lot of people who commented seem to have, and retweeted, seem to have forgotten that it was April Fool's Day. And everyone was like, oh my God. And you said when on our Instagram account, at Fighter Podcast, and it's at Fighter Podcast Twitter as well, guys. You said on at Fighter Podcast, or was it on the Facebook page, Complete Fighter Podcast?
It's Facebook page. I think somebody mentioned it to me. Yeah.
Yes. Facebook page, guys. Yeah. That someone asked the page, why won't McGregor step in? And you made a really interesting point. Why wouldn't McGregor replace Khabib and make it McGregor Ferguson? You made an interesting point. You said when McGregor's making these addresses to the nation saying we should stay safe, self-isolate, all this, he said that he would go back on that, be hypocritical, if he went and flew off to the States to fight Ferguson. So that was an interesting point you made. So yeah.
He's not going to jump in. Definitely not.
Oh no, Kavanagh confirmed that on the Ariel Hawani show 2 days ago. He said that they considered it. He said he spoke to Conor on the phone, and he said they considered it for about 30 seconds. Then he said then we looked at it and just said, even though Conor's staying fit, he's doing his McGregor fast program. It is the case that he's he wouldn't fight Ferguson or Khabib on 2 weeks' notice. So a week's notice. Sorry.
Yeah, no chance. Now listen. I suppose last word, on UFC 249 is the chance. I think the chances of us seeing it happening are receding faster than my hairline. To be honest, I don't think we're going to see it.
Dana White, along with the head of the NBA, NFL, NHL, the head of NASCAR, is meeting Donald Trump today to discuss sporting events going forward in the short to medium term. So Dana White's very good friends with Donald Trump, so I wonder, will that help him? Who knows? What is it you want to discuss now?
There's not much else happening in MMA. I did come across a story. Cody Garbrandt says that he can drop to 125 pounds and save the flyweight division, but I don't want to see Cody Garbrandt at that weight. I think that's just a sort of a knee-jerk reaction to coming off of 3 losses.
And who would he fight?
Well, yeah, I think the whole idea is going down to 125 and going after Cejudo, but like I don't want to see that.
But is Cejudo, is it not UFC 250, which will obviously be postponed if Dana White has any sense? Is it not UFC 250 that Cejudo is rumored to fight? I don't know.
No, so
Bantamweight.
Aldo is not going to fight on that now. So Corey Sandhagen said he was going to fight. That he was going to fight to step in to fight Cejudo, and then Garbrandt came out and said that he'll drop to 125. So I don't know. But I don't think Garbrandt would do well with that weight cut going down another 10 pounds. I don't think it would suit him. But I think that's I think that'd be a bad decision considering he's coming off 3 losses. Obviously, 2 of them were to Dillashaw, and then the last one was to who was the last one to? I'm trying to remember now. The last one was to Pedro Munoz, but and that was back in March 2019. But like he's been out a while, but I don't think he should be. That sounds like a knee-jerk reaction, just saying, "Oh, I'll drop to 125." It's not. I don't think it's that simple, especially on short notice as well to fight. Relatively short notice to fight someone like Cejudo.
We obviously don't have so much time, and there's a few quick things we have to discuss in boxing. So before we leave MMA, move on to boxing. Bellator. Is there anything that's said there by what's his name, Coker? Is it Coke?
Yes, Scott Coker. No updates there. Interesting one was I seen that
UFC London.
No, I haven't seen anything about that. I think most of that is
sorry, Bellator London. Sorry.
No, Bellator London is postponed. I don't know when it's postponed to. They haven't announced it yet, but that's postponed. Bellator Dublin in October. I just noticed that Brian Moore, obviously another SPG guy, is calling out Ricky Bandejas to come back and fight him there, and he was calling for that to be the first fight in a 135-pound tournament. So to fight for the 135-pound belt in Bellator, so that'd be interesting if it goes ahead. But apart from that, not much news on the Bellator front apart from those events being postponed.
So if Khabib doesn't fight, if Ferguson doesn't fight, Rosenham, Nunes, Francis Ngannou, people who are obviously supposed to fight at UFC 249, even the undercard of UFC 249 doesn't go ahead, it is the case the fighters won't get paid. But people have different opinions on that. But anyways, we won't get political about it. Scott Coker appears to be very decisive about this in terms of postponing and cancelling events. Sam, you know more than me for Bellator, but he seems to be, I don't know if I'd say much more on the ball than Dana is. Obviously his MMA presidential role, but he seems to be making decisions much quicker. But can I ask you about Bellator? If, say, for example, if this goes on for longer than we actually hope it will, and if Bellator Dublin is postponed, if it is, Bellator Dublin, if it's postponed, will the fighters still get paid?
Bellator has been,
unlike UFC.
Bellator, they've been pretty good at paying people anyway. I know for obviously the last Bellator Dublin, Carl Eleanor and James Gallagher were meant to fight, and then their fight before that was obviously called off as well. So they both still got paid both times when their fight was called off, and then they're obviously meant to fight on this Bellator London card. I imagine they'd be compensated again because basically they've had next to no income for nearly a year and a half. So like they're known well for looking after people. Like they have a huge company behind them. CBS, I think they bought Viacom recently, so or they joined up with Viacom. So like they have a huge company behind them, a lot of money. I think that they probably will compensate fighters. They're known to have compensated people. I suppose where the UFC seems to think of their fighters a bit more as independent contractors and just sort of pay them when they show up. But probably not the best business model if you want your fighters to enjoy working for you, and not go to Bellator.
Well, at the same time, Dana White completely disagrees with the whole thing of a UFC fighter being able to be a free agent. That was one of the reasons why it took so long for GSP, correct me if I'm wrong, to come back. It's not just the Under Armour sponsorship, which wasn't allowed for GSP. He was getting a lot of money from that. Dana White, obviously, with the Reebok deal, wasn't allowing GSP to wear Under Armour if he was supposed to come back. Part of it, as well, is that GSP was telling all MMA media in Canada, he was telling them, oh, I'm a free agent, I'm not under contract by the UFC. That was causing a serious war of words between him and Dana. So it's ridiculous that Dana would regard his fighters as being independent contractors, but then be against them being freelance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the whole, it's definitely, how would you say? It's definitely a bit hypocritical that they treat you like you're an independent contractor and say if you don't show up, you're not getting paid, even though you're locked into a contract with the company and all this stuff. But then on the other side of it, you have no choice, but you have no way to make money outside of it. You're not allowed to do other sponsorship things. You're very restricted in what you can appear on. Even when you do like the Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that, the way like even if you get knocked out in the show, I was reading obviously Paddy Houlihan's book. Even when you get knocked out in the show, like you're not allowed to tell anybody you got knocked out because obviously it's a while before the show airs, and then you're not allowed to fight anywhere else. You're not allowed to sign a deal with anybody else. You're not allowed to agree terms with anybody else. So, like they're quite restrictive in how they operate. But listen, they're the biggest brand. The brand is the brand itself is the sport. Like without the UFC, then the sport isn't known. Like so. That's just the power of their brand. They're able to treat people like that. Isn't it? That's their
So
business
listen,
model. That's them.
for the last 15, 20 minutes, because we're under time pressure, you've got plans that are apparently more important than me. But anyways, is the case. I thought that was a good joke. Anyways,
No,
going,
it's
going
I've got to appear on ESPN after this, and then to do RT Sport just for
do you know? Do you know?
grab.
Actually, just 2 minutes ago, I went to Centra with Eddie Hearn. We had a coffee, like so. Literally, like he's in
Speak,
Centra.
Speaking of Eddie Hearn, actually, to interrupt you, because I don't care what you have to say, but um, Eddie Hearn basically, as you see, he's for all his future events for the year, he's offering 200 free tickets to hospital staff for all of his
That's
events. So,
savage, man.
yeah,
Savage,
pretty cool. So,
savage.
fair play to Eddie.
Dana White did something equally generous and said, "If you win some competition, I'll give you tickets for your pay-per-view show of choice."
What?
Dana, there was some competition or something like that,
He does that all
and
the
Dana.
time. That's nothing to do with the healthcare thing.
No, no, I know, but I'm saying it's not as generous as her. Do you know what I mean? But anyways, moving on to boxing. Well, just so I want to go into quicker. It's not as big a story, but it's interesting because we don't discuss them as much as we should. I think the greatest young fighter right now, in my opinion, is Ryan Garcia. Okay, American Mexican, incredible featherweight, actually lightweight. He's currently WBC silver lightweight champion. Let's see about Ryan Garcia. He's 21 years old. Devin Haney is 21 years old. Same weight. Both of them exceptional boxers for being so early. Gervonta Tank Davis is, I could be wrong, I think 26, so he's not far off there. We've got three amazing fighters there at similar weights, okay? Amir Khan came out, I think it was 3 days ago, Amir Khan, and he said something like, I have actually considered retirement, whatever, but I am considering retirement. But there are a few lightweights that I wouldn't mind going back down to lightweight, which is always Amir Khan's best weight. He was never great at welterweight, or super welterweight. Anyways, it was the case. He said, "Oh, there's a few lightweights I wouldn't mind fighting," and for some reason, I could have the wrong end of the stick here. Ryan Garcia thought that was aimed at him, Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
And he just came out and he just said something like, something like, oh, if you want to make it happen, will happen. And I might have respect for you, Amir, but if you fought me, I would seriously hurt you. And I was thinking, okay, Amir Khan is known for saying a lot of stupid stuff. He's full of himself. He loves himself, basically. But how can you talk to someone who's achieved so much in the sport, Olympic medalist, former world champion, fought some amazing fights against Maidana, went in there and tried his best against Canelo. It didn't work out for him, of course. It didn't work out for him against Terence Crawford. But then he just had some absolutely brilliant fights. And apart from the fight against Kell Brook, he always seemed to want the big fights. Then Ryan Garcia, at only the age of 21, is kind of talking very prematurely. We've discussed this before, Sam. My worry about Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, those type of fighters, is I always worry about fighters that peak very early. They get great at such a young age, but naturally up until the age of 25, 26, your mind mentally and socially is still quite childish, So if he's 21 years old, Ryan Garcia, he's got incredible knockout power. In his previous 2 fights, he knocked out his opponent against Fonseca last fight. Knocked him out within a minute and 40 seconds. His previous fight, I think he knocked him out within 3 minutes. No, I think it was within 2.5 minutes. Sorry. Also a first round KO. Then it was the case that he's signed with Golden Boy Promotions with Oscar De La Hoya, Richard Schaefer's company. He's training with Canelo. And he's being told by everyone around him, this is where he's similar to Wilder. Fair enough, Wilder's 15 years older. But everyone around him, at only the age of 21, and you absorb things much quicker and much more at that young age. Everyone around him is telling him how great he is. He's hanging around after his fight with Fonseca. Logan Paul, his friend, was there in the dressing room saying, "You're so amazing." Former world champion Bernard Hopkins had his arm around him after in the post-fight interview and said, "This kid is the GOAT, is the greatest of all time for his age." I was like, oh my God, Mike Tyson is one of the great. I'd put him top 5 best boxers of all time, maybe top 5, top 6. But Mike Tyson peaked very early as well. Now, Mike Tyson fought past what he should have, but certain people say that the fact that Mike Tyson peaked so early was one of his curse. Became youngest heavyweight world champion of all time at only the age of 20. Won medals in the Junior Olympics. But what happened with Tyson is you get into trouble much more at such a young age. You start to overestimate your ability at such a young age. That's not to say Mike Tyson wasn't amazing. He was one of the greatest of all time. But Ryan Garcia seems to be, in a very premature way, thinking so highly of himself because he hasn't fought anyone yet. Fonseca was a very good fighter, but he hasn't fought anyone yet. And he's getting all these ideas in his head, saying he'd hurt Amir Khan. Screenshot messages he got off Devin Haney and saying to Devin Haney, "I would literally kill you in the ring." Saying he'd like to fight Lama and he thinks he'd beat Lomachenko. And same is the case with Gervonta Davis. He's not really grounded at all. Devin Haney's a small bit more humble. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I seen the post this morning actually when I went on to Instagram. He was talking about Kell Brook and or not Kell Brook, Amir Khan, I should say. And it was a bit ridiculous. It sort of just out of nowhere, and I was kind of like, "What are you doing?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're not gonna fight him anyway. Like, so like, why are you getting so aggressive towards the guy? Like, it's like clearly it wasn't aimed at you either. Like, so. I don't know. I think he just lost the head a bit. Like it didn't come across very well, and I was kind of like, usually when someone calls someone out like that, you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it was kind of like cringy in a way. It was like, shut up, like, you know.
do you know, man? What I will say is, I don't want to sound anti-American, but it's much more of an American thing that boxers get these ideas in their head of overestimating their ability. We said about Wilder before, and I would say to anyone, Sirius FM. Sirius FM. Look at Paulie Malignaggi's interview on that radio show after the Fury versus Wilder 2 fight. He said that one of the issues with Wilder is, and this contributed to Wilder not doing, obviously, not winning the first fight. He lost. Wilder lost the first fight against Fury, and obviously getting battered in the second fight. Part of that, Paulie said, is that no one in his circle is real with him anymore. Paulie said, and then Paulie said, when Wilder came out, Wilder said in the ring after Fury battered him in the rematch in February, he said, "I'm not going to make any excuses." And then he came out and gave 40 excuses. The ridiculous thing of the costume, my legs, all this. Anything that you say that you post when you're a professional boxer, a big MMA star, anything you post is something you've already discussed in your circle, as Paulie Malignaggi said. So he would have mentioned the costume to his trainer or whatever. And why did none of his mates, none of his, goons, why did none of them say, come on, man, you can't be saying that. That's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? They seem to be hanger-on guys. And I would think that what will happen with Wilder is what happened with Tyson to a large degree, which is that maybe with promoters, maybe with his mates, trainers, whoever, that, when he wins, it's us. When he loses, it's you. Yeah. And I think the exact same thing might happen with Ryan Garcia. Fair enough, Wilder achieved what he achieved much later in his life. But I think the same will happen with Garcia. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you. I suppose actually one thing that just popped into my head was you were proven right anyway with regards to Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe went and got himself banned, as we said. We said it last week when we did the podcast. We said we think Billy Joe needs a social media manager, and he went and got himself banned now. So he's that fight, as you said, you were proven right. It's not going to happen either way. So
I think the hearing is in May or June.
Yeah.
Now his license I don't know if it's been revoked or suspended. A lot of people are saying different things. But you see, this is the worst time to do this because the British Boxing Board of Control are in a review period now. They're reviewing everything.
Yeah.
From events to licenses to, young lads coming through, should they be given licenses. When it is the case that business is quiet, gives managers, boards, councils much more time to review. So him doing this is the worst time to do it. I think with Billy Joe Saunders, I don't understand how any trainer would work with him now. Because putting aside the social media management thing, it's like a trainer isn't a babysitter, And how is a trainer, whether it's Dominic Ingle, Adam Booth, Ben Davison, who he's now back with, all the trainers he's gone through, Jimmy Tibbs, how is it that they can tame him if he finds it hard, he's not that committed to training sometimes, exceptional boxer, but he finds it hard to get committed to train if there's not. And then if you're his trainer and you have to, in interviews, defend his stupid comments where he's acting like a twat in social media posts, this is like the 5th or 6th time he's done stuff like this. And in a very short period of time, a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. I know this sounds ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired or if he didn't get his license back.
Yeah, I mean, like, as you said with regards to the coach, she got Ben Davison arrested, a week ago, 2 weeks ago now. Do you really want to be dealing with that sort of shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job at isolating himself. Tyson Fury and him have been friends since they were literally kids. But given Tyson Fury is the biggest star in the sport right now, him or Joshua, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyson Fury, at least publicly, not privately, at least publicly distanced himself from Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? So it would be a good idea if Tyson Fury now, because his reputation is so sky high, if he's asked questions about Billy Joe Saunders and what he's like on social media, if he just said no comment, And then if he maintained his loyalty in private, gave a phone call in, whatever, that would be good. But Billy Joe Saunders is doing an amazing job at destroying his career, and it's sad because if the fight wasn't in Vegas, I think that it is possible that Billy Joe Saunders could beat Canelo, but he'd never beat him in Las Vegas because Canelo is too valuable to the American and Mexican pay-per-view market for the judges, for the commission to let Billy Joe Saunders win on decision. Billy Joe Saunders could do, but you know, I don't know. It's also against Billy Joe Saunders' favor. It's not in Billy Joe Saunders' favor that the fight would take place at 168. Billy Joe Saunders has fought twice at super middleweight. He fought Coachella's in his last fight in the KSI Logan Paul 2 card, and he fought Shefa Dasufi in the Scunthorpe ground, I think it was. Was it the Scunthorpe ground? Shoreditch ground? No, is it Shoreditch? I think it was Scunthorpe, yeah.
Yeah, Scunthorpe, yeah. The football stadium, huh?
Yeah, but it is the case that, you know, he didn't look impressive in either, you know, but Billy Joe Saunders would have to knock him out, but it's much more difficult to fight maybe the greatest super middleweight in the world, being Canelo. It's very difficult to fight a great fighter. It's very difficult for Billy Joe to fight Canelo and fight the ref and fight the judges and fight the crowd when all of those factors wouldn't be in his favor. But I was proven right. Thanks for giving me credit for once in my life. Anyways, it is
worse than last time.
We just before we let it go, we'll go on to heavyweights quickly, will we?
Yeah, I suppose you said Joshua Pulev. Well, not that you said. Eddie Hearn said obviously Joshua Pulev is off now, and they're renegotiating with Spurs for a different day. And then obviously, as I think it was yourself said that you mentioned the possibility of both Pulev and Wilder stepping aside to allow Fury and Joshua fight. What's the possibility of that happening, do you think?
It's possible. It's only possible for one reason. It's possible for Pulev to step aside, but I can't say it's possible for Wilder.
No.
Wilder will want to avenge the loss, and all the yes men goons he has around him will say to him, "Oh, you can win the trilogy, you can beat him up," which I would think is incredibly unlikely. But Wilder will want the rematch. I doubt he'll accept the step aside money unless it's exceptional money. Pulev will probably step aside, and let me tell you why. Both Pulev and Tyson Fury are signed with Bob Arum's Top Rank. So Bob Arum can literally threaten. He's 89 years old, but he can't be threatening. He can literally threaten Kubrat Pulev, who's nowhere near as big a star as Tyson Fury. Arum could just say to him, "Listen, I'm your promoter. I'm telling you what to do," you know. And he said, "I'm asking you to step aside for Joshua. Sorry, for Tyson Fury to fight Joshua instead of you in July in Tottenham Hotspur." So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see that. I think that fight wouldn't happen in the UK, but how glorious would it be if it was?
Yeah.
I would put it this way: if it went on sale, and if we didn't get media credentials, I would probably have about 11 cups of coffee, and I'd be on StubHub for about 10 hours before, just with my eyes like that, to get 4 tickets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd be something else. It'd probably be. I mean, you think about what Hearn managed to do with Froch Groves in Wembley, and then obviously AJ's fight in Wembley. Imagine having AJ against Fury, like, for undisputed champion. It'd be out of this world. Like, to have that in the UK, it would be absolutely mental. You could sell Wembley out 10 times over for that fight. Like, yeah, it'd be just incredible. As you say, I can't see networks allowing it to be off of US time, and I can't see them being allowed to run late into the night, like, to allow US TV to catch up on all that nonsense. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but you need to consider this as well. Well, that's a really good point, because we've discussed this before in both MMA and boxing. So British boxing MMA fans, Irish boxing MMA fans, we stay up for the Conor McGregor fight until 4 or 5 a.m., you know? But it's Americans don't return that favor. So if it is the case that some of them will be 5 hours behind, yeah. So it is the case that they're not going to watch a main event at 5-6 p.m. when some of them are mainly maybe working that day, on even if it's on a weekend. You know what I mean? Or they're just sitting down to dinner. They don't return the favor like we do, which is a bit strange, but it is what it is. But you see,
sorry to interrupt. I think that's more so to do with competition. I think in America there's so much sport on every minute of the day. You've got college football, you've got the NFL, you've got baseball, you've got ice hockey, you've got basketball, you've got NASCAR, you've got all these things to go up against, and they're on year round. There's always 3 or 4 sports you're going to be competing with. Whereas I think in the UK and Ireland, we watch football, we watch the Premiership at the weekend or whatever, like, and that's usually on during the day. That's not on the evening, so there's no competition there. There's very few, like rugby and soccer. They're not going to, or football, I should say. I don't know why I'm calling it the American name, but anyway, football and rugby, they're on during the day. There's no real conflict there because they're on at different times. Whereas all the American sports, and they have so much to watch, they're all constantly conflicting with each other. So, I think that's probably worth to mention that it's a different market TV wise, you know.
Just lastly, of course, Dylan White was supposed to fight Alexander Povetkin on May 2nd. That's obviously cancelled. We were supposed to go to that. Postponed, to a date which has yet to be confirmed. As I mentioned, Joshua Pulev will probably be postponed, same venue, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, until July. But what's interesting is Dylan White on IFL TV. He did a great interview with Kugan Cassius, and he said, what is it? He said, my fight was postponed, is being postponed, but I'm still in camp over here in Portugal. And it's just him, his dogs, and his trainers. And he's in an undisclosed location in Portugal. And he's just training there. So, but he said he'll train anyways. But if the fight's in July and if he's staying over there until then, there's always the worry of someone overtraining. But having said that, Povetkin's probably 3-4 years past his best anyway, so it's 100% not a takeover fight for Dylan White. It's a tough fight, but I still think he gets him out of there in the 7th round.
Yeah, unless Povetkin overloads on the special sauce, but sure, we won't talk about that. But.
That was it. Is that it, anyways? Not too much else to discuss?
No, I suppose we'll wait to hear what happens MMA wise with UFC 249, and I suppose with the boxing world, we wait to see when we get a fight again. So I don't know, but yeah.
So that's brilliant, guys. Just to say, we apologize to you guys. Like, obviously, we have the podcast on SoundCloud and on Spotify, which you can find below in the bio. And it is the case that obviously we haven't been able to release episodes on that because Sam and I much prefer to do podcast episodes, as I said, available on SoundCloud and Spotify, Complete Fighter Podcast. We prefer doing them, like together rather than by ourselves. It's not really possible right now to do it together. So it might be the case we might be doing 15-20 minute episodes by ourselves to keep it short and sweet. And we'll be trying to release more of these YouTube clips. But given the fact that nothing's happening, it's kind of difficult. As I said, guys, if you want to listen, as I said, to some old episodes on SoundCloud, Spotify, go ahead. And we'd appreciate if you subscribe below, follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Fighter Podcast, and make sure to like our Facebook page as well.